So after creating the sandy kit, now we're ready to go and start the rock kit as well. And we're going to use this reference as the main reference because it has a lot of coastal rocks and some layered rocks and some blocky rocks which are perfect for this kind of weather conditions. So let me take that and bring it here, and I'm going to do the block out in Blender. Of course, I'm not doing any details in Blender. I'm only going to create a simple cube and export it to Photoshop and ZBrush, excuse me, export it to ZBrush and then detail it there. I'm only going to create the cube in Blender so that I know the proportions and things like that. So I'm going to go and create basic cube. I'm going to make this 8 by 8. This is going to be a huge one. So again, I'm going to create another cube and make this one 4 by 4 and another cube and make this one 2 by 2 and another smaller one. I'm going to make it 1 by 1, and all of them are going to have the UVs, but that doesn't matter because on these ones the UV isn't a concern in beginning places, because we're not going to use tiling UVs on these. We're going to hand place the alphas so that we get the better result. And let me take this and duplicate it so that we have a couple of small rocks. So I'm comparing them against the size of the mannequin, and it's totally right. So now that I have the block out, let me drag them over and duplicate them again. And we are going to create 10 rock kits so that we have enough variation for them. And we're going to make them so many sided that every time we rotate them, we get another variation. Okay, and we're going to make some of them layered and make some of them blocky so that we have enough variation in terms of tropical areas. So let's take them, and I'm going to bring them to the center of the world. Okay, and of course I'm making the cubes the cube shape, and not necessarily I'm going to keep them cube because I'm going to extrude them, reduce them, and do all sorts of changes and do a lot of things, for example making them rectangle instead of cube. But this is to keep the proportions relative to the size of the mannequin that we have here. Okay, I'm going to take all of them and hit export, and of course I have the ZBrush open in background, so let's hit export, and it's going to take a bit to import into ZBrush. Okay, let's hit Ctrl and N to clear the canvas and click on one of these subtools, and now you're able to click on this one which has 10 subtools and drag it in. Okay, now we have the kits ready to be sculpted on, and I'm going to use the same method. I'm going to dynamesh them to some degree, give them shapes, and when I was happy I dynamesh it to a lower level and then start to Control D to sculpt on it. So let's come in here and see the kits. Yeah, they're alphabetically correct, and I'm going to only select this one, and let's do the manipulations on that. And looks like, yeah, this one is the 8-meter piece, and I'm going to sculpt on it first. And once again I'm insisting that you create some save files just like I have done here. Create some saves and save incrementally so that you do not lose any progress. So now that I'm looking at this, it looks like I need to turn the cube into something rectangle like. So let's give it a simple dynamesh, and since the size of the cube is huge, is 8 meters, we're getting 1,000,000 polygons. I really do not want that, so let's bring the dynamesh resolution down and dynamesh it, and now we have enough. So I really do not want a lot of polygons in beginning stages. So looks like I can go even back to something like 32 or 16. Okay, it's enough. And now let's drag the move brush and start to give this shape. And if this one is a small, you see we are gone to the maximum degree. We can go to preference, and in draw, the maximum brush size, you can bring it to whatever you want. Let's go for maximum 5000, and in here you can also drag it out and shape the cube as you would like. So let's take these ones, drag them out, and on bottom let's shape them as well. And as I told you, these are not going to stay perfect 8 meters wide, 8 meters pieces. I'm going to extrude them, rotate them, and do as much changes as I want to make them look what I want really. So now I'm giving that a basic shape and look from all sides to make sure that every side is different from another. Okay, this one is good for the starters. And now let's give it another dynamesh. And you see the polygons have been skewed and we really do not want that. So let's give it a dynamesh. Now the polygon is a lot better. And now we can use Control D to start to detail this one out. So remember to save as well. And do a dynamesh and deactivate the dynamesh, because from now on we are only relying on Control and D. Okay, now it has enough subdivisions and we're ready to sculpt. And since the polygon distribution is alright, we're getting perfect squares anywhere. So let's go for trim smooth border, and we can try to hit the edges first, because this hard edges is really against the alphas that we're going to create. So we're going to destroy some places to make sure that when we add the alphas we're getting perfect thing. And if you want to manipulate the volume, you can go for this clay buildup and also clay and clay tube, and use which of one of them you want to manipulate the shape more. For example, if I want to extrude on this part, I give this volume and then I smooth it out to alter the volume as well. So let's make sure that we do some volume changes as well, but I'm not going to be so radical on this. Just add the volumes, and when you were happy you go to the trim smooth border with the alpha and try to soften it out to make sure that it keeps the rocky shape that we want. So from here as well, just try to hit and do not pick up your pen, because every time you put the pen on here it's going to sample from a normal, and by really not picking up your tablet you're able to introduce a lot of planar changes. And if you start to really pick up your tablet every time, it's going to sample different normals and you're getting different planar changes. If that is what you want, you really go for it. But if you want to, you can keep your brush and do not bring it up. Just try to sample the same noise. Okay, and let's go for the clay buildup or clay tube or whatever you want to do, and start to introduce some extra volume. And be negative on some places and positive on some as well. You really do not want to make it so uniform. You really want to add to a place and go negative, for example, holding Alt to be negative on this side as well. And if you want it, you can hold the smooth, you can hold Shift and do a smooth, or you can bring in the trim smooth border and start to flatten the area. And if you want also, you can hold down Alt to make the smoothing coming out instead of going in. So every time you put your pen, do not pick the pen up. Just hold down your pen and do not remove it, so that you're only painting on one normal. And if I put my pen and do not pick it up and continue, you see I'm introducing a new plane in here. And this is really what happens in nature. So let's take this area, smooth it. So this is only for adding the big shapes, and later on, using alpha maps, we start to introduce medium shape and a small shapes as well. This is on this side, and now let's go and pick up some of the rock brushes that I have to make our work a lot easier. And on this one, I'm adding some of these ground rocks, for example. Let's add them to here, and of course, turn the back face on so that you do not affect other sides. And you see how beautifully it has started to add details in the places that I have. So let's affect this part as well. So it looks like we really need to remove a lot of these sculpt so that alphas work better. So it's better now to use alphas instead of manually sculpting. So I'm going some steps back to remove all of the details that I have placed manually and start to rely on alphas. And it's going to give us a better result. Of course, you can go with hand placed details, but keeping this alpha is a lot better. So let's try to work on here. And it's telling me that I have a lot of undo steps and it's going to remove them. So let's hit yes so that it replaces all of them. So start to apply this layering effect and be random on it. For example, applying the noise on all of directions instead of adding just in one direction. So let's go a step back and make it stronger. Okay, now it's more like it. And now go for another brush. Let's select this one to see what it has to offer. Of course, always enable the backface auto masking to save a lot of headaches. We can also hold down Alt to introduce a negative version of that as well. So let's go in these areas which we do not have so much detail and start to apply some of them. And now I picked up another brush and backface masking on. But let's now apply the details. Okay, and it can be random on that as well. So let me watch the edges and make the brush size smaller and try to make these edges a smoother bit. So let's apply the brush on this side as well. And since we have the back face masking, it's not affecting other parts. So it's not good comparing to that because this is a form of rock different to this one. So I'm going to pick another alpha to paste there instead. So I'm taking the same alpha and try to use this alpha on all of the places to make that uniform. Okay, and now this side is remaining. Let's do the back face masking. And I can increase the size and intensity to make it more intense. So this one done as well. And we need to hit this area because this has becoming something like a refrigerator instead of a mountain. So let's pick this area and try to hit it. And try to make it as smooth as well. I'm going to introduce another plane, and instead of making it four-sided, I'm going to make it 6 or 8-sided, depending on what really we want to accomplish with that. So let's smooth that out. And now bring the alpha that we have and try to paste the alpha here. And just do on this side instead. And now it's looking a lot more realistic. Just try to paint and go negative as well. Okay, and now this is looking a lot more beautiful than what it was. So before applying any alpha, let's go here and try to hit this edge. We don't want that so sharp. So let's try to add some planar changes already so that when applying the brushes on them we have really no problem and the transition would be a lot better. Okay, and in here as well it's looking fluffy and we need to cure that. Okay, and on this part as well I'm going to smooth it out and paste some small rock noises in here. So let's go to the brush that we have there and I start to apply the noise. And on the parts, when it displaces the geometry so much, you can take the smooth brush and try to smooth the parts as well. But in here, really, it did a great job. So let's take that and apply it on a smaller scale on these parts. On here as well, let me apply it. And since this rock is pretty noisy, we do not have a hard time really, because it's easier to create a noisy rock than a rock that is not so noisy, because the noise will do some of the job for us. So let's apply it here as well. It's done. And now on this part also we need to apply the noise. I applied it inverted in here and that is fine. Okay, let's apply it positive And don't try to go too overboard with it because it might clash with other places and create a negative effect. Okay, and apply the alpha in here as well, and also in here. And later on, the texturing will do a lot of the work to make this look shiny and really rock-like. And try to smooth some of the parts where we have messed up the geometry so much. Okay, now that I'm looking at it, it's looking good from all sides. Now what I'm going to do is hitting Go Z, and before that save the file so that you do not lose any progress, and hit Shift D so that it cycles through to the bottom of the subdivision level, and hit Go Z visible. Okay, now let's go to Blender and delete these or bring these ones out. And we want to hit import so that it imports the file for us. So let's hit import. Okay, done. And now we have this at the lowest subdivision level. And we can UV this one out. And this one, we have a harder work UVing this because it has a lot of planar changes which we need to take into consideration. Okay, let's drag this one back and go into UV edit, and first give it a UV map, and now start to do the UVing process. So the process is the same. You're going to follow the curvature and separate it based on the curvature. So let's deselect this part and try to follow the curvature better. Let's pick up from this part instead. And you can go back and watch the curvature to see where it goes. Let's pick up from here and start to follow all the way to here. And you really do not want to go so careful about it. Just paste some lines in here so that we can have the curvature. And on this part, if you see the geometry is messed up, you should really do not care, because later on when we decimate it, we're going to clean these parts as well. So we should really do not care about that. So just go for the curvature and separate this part from the part beneath it. So I need to go a couple of steps back and do from here. And the UVing part on this is going to be a lot harder because of the amount of complexity that the mesh has. But we're going to do that all anyway. So let's see where we are. Okay, and now let's do a shortest path to here. No, let's pick from here and then to here. Okay, let's make this one sharp and select this one and go all the way down to here. Now let's come from here. Yeah, this one is better. And now come to here, mark seam, and we want to separate this part as well. Let's give this one a plane. And for this geometry, you shouldn't really care because we're going to remedy that. So let's do that again in here. We're going to only go for curvature, not being really concerned about it. So this one as well. And on here, there's not really something noticeable. I'm only going to select one of these lines that comes from here and put all the way down to this part. Okay, let's mark seam this one as well. And this place also, I'm going to place a seam here. And a seam that goes all the way to top and gets connected to this part. Okay, let's mark this one as seam as well. And we need to put one more seam that comes from here to this way and all the way to top on this part. Now let's pick up from here and then connect it to here. So I believe the UV creation needs to be started on this. So let's go to polygon and I start to select this and unwrap. Okay, and select this one and unwrap. And of course you can hit tab to see the UV active mode and separate by seam. Okay, let's make this one a separate unwrap as well. This part unwrap, and this one unwrap as well. Just look like one more UV island remaining. Unwrap, okay, and now everything has been unwrapped perfectly. And now let's go to UV packer, bring the padding to 1, make it high quality and hit packing so that it packs the UV for us. It looks like it's not so optimal and we need to think about it. So let's pack again, set the rotation to 45 degree. No, we need to do some hand placing things as well because I want this to have the all islands facing in the same direction. So let's take this one and rotate it. Now all of them are facing towards one direction, and these two are top and bottom pieces. I really do not care about them. So let's disable the rotation and hit pack again. Now we got a better resolution. Of course, to save the space, I can take this one and resize it, for example, but this one is going to give us some texture inconsistency. So I'm going to keep this for now and export this to ZBrush. So let's hit export, and so it's telling me that the topology has changed. It's going to transfer, hit yes, and now it's going to transfer the topology to all of the subdivision levels so that we have consistency all across. So it's now remapping the high details. Just give it a bit of time so that it calculates. So it took a bit of time to calculate the geometry changes and apply to the highest level as well. And if we go to highest level also, we are getting the same result there. So let's look at it, and it's looking fine everywhere. So if I come down to here, and the auto groups with UV is now enabled, and now if I do that, you see we're getting all of the UVs there. So now let's go and do the next. Okay, now let's hide it, and let's see this one compared to this. Yeah, and now we're going to create a medium piece as well. So let's hide this one and only concentrate on this. So let's give it a really small dynamesh, and I want to go down even more. Let me go to the lowest dynamesh possible. Okay, looks like it's not going any down, so let's hit the move brush and start to change the shape a bit. And let's try to alter the shape more dramatically compared to that one. I'm going to make this one altered so much more. Okay, this one, and look from all sides so that you have different results every time. Okay, it's alright, I believe. And now let's hit another Dynamesh. Let's go to a lower resolution to see. No, this is unfortunately the lowest we can go. Okay, let's turn off the Dynamesh, and now from here I can rely on the divide to subdivide this. Okay, let's hit Shift D some more time. Okay, to get 6 million polygons. And now it's time to start to do the trim smooth border to introduce the planar changes, and then we apply the noises as well. So let's try to hit these edges, and every time you felt that it's a bit too noisy, you can hit Shift and smooth the result as well. Just try to smooth it out a bit so that when you later on introduce some alphas, you really do not get a lot of edge noises as well. So just make the edges a bit smoother than the rest. Okay, now let's hit planar changes in here as well. We really do not want perfect cube. We want cube, but not the four-sided cube. Let's go for something else. Okay, let's go some steps back. We need to fix this part. Okay, now let's hit this one. And since we cannot use Dynamesh, I'm not really able to hit that part anymore. Because if we were to use Dynamesh, we could easily hit Dynamesh and the result would be there. So I'm not going to use Dynamesh. Instead, I'm going to rely on hand lacing details instead. So I believe for the shaping, it's alright. And now let's do some planar changes in here as well. Okay, and let's go a couple of steps back, hit Shift D, and this is the lowest. Okay, let's roll with this instead. So let's hit D to go up and start to apply the noises. Just try to be a bit more radical on these to try to introduce planar changes, and that is because I want to have different thing every time we rotate this. So it's alright, and this place is remaining. And in here I'm going to hold Alt to be extruding as well, because the trim smooth border is Z sub. If we hold Alt, we are getting Z add instead. So let's smooth this part. And now it's about time we alpha this one out. So let's try some alphas. Let's go with this one. This is the previous one. Let's apply it. Yeah, we are getting good results. And let's apply on all places. Okay, just try not to drag it so much, because if you drag it too much, you're getting a lot of problems. Just try to be small on that. And every time you faced something wrong, just try to smooth it out. So let's put the details in here as well. We need to be small on here. Okay, this one is alright. On this one also we're getting what we want. And now let's rearrange these polygons a bit. and try to paste the noise as well there. And when you want to apply the noise, just smooth it out and then apply it. You will get another layer of noise in there as well. So since I want this one to be the same rock as the previous one, I'm applying the same rock noise as well. Okay, and let's visit from all sides. And now every time we rotate this, we're getting a new result, and it's perfectly fine. And what I'm really going for. Let's apply the noise on here, but negative. And on here as well, looks like we need to do a lot of polygon distribution. Okay, now let's drag the alpha in here as well. And rearrange these edges just a bit. And later on when we decimate this, a lot of these polygon distribution problems are going to get gone. Okay, and now we have this. Let's hit D to go to the lowest subdivision level. Excuse me, Shift D. Okay, this is as low as it can go. And we need to UV this inside Blender now. So let's hit Go Z on visible. And now in Blender we got that. Okay, let's take this, isolate, and start the UVing process. And I'm placing the UV lines on the parts where it makes sense the most, on curvature parts. Okay, on here, and we need to come down to here, all the way to here, and I'm doing my best to follow the curvature. And you really do not need to be so specific on this, because this is going to be hidden under a lot of geometry. This is a low poly one, and we are seeing the line. But later on, when you add real geometry to this, it's not really going to be seen. And it becomes something like the dog kit, those woods that we created. Okay, now let's make this one a seam. And now select from this part and try to follow the curvature. Okay, and let's follow from here. Now let's go a couple of steps back and now follow from here. And trust me, UVing something like this is going to be a lot easier than UVing, for example, a mesh that has something like a couple of million polygons. Okay, it might look like a bit overwhelming, but it's a part of the process and you cannot really dodge that. So let's continue all the way to here and to here as well. And the good thing about these nanite meshes is that you really do not want to care so much about the lines that you put here. You want something just to resemble the shape. That's all. Okay, mark this one as seam as well. And now let's go for here and make these two also seam so that we can separate this part out. So let me look from here. Just go and relax a bit, and let's start from here. Okay, I'm going to come to here and then to here and mark it as seam, and on this one as well. This one I'm going to freestyle it to here. Okay, mark this one as seam as well, and we need to place a seam line right in here. Okay, and all the way to here and to here. Now let's come from here, or if it didn't work we can try to select in between. Okay, and select this one, mark it seam, and now let's try to separate these ones. Let me select this. Okay, this is looking good, and unwrap this. Okay, perfect, unwrap. Select this one and make sure that you put the seam in here when you're select linked, so that you select something in between the seams. Okay, on this one it looks like we need to fix some things in here. Let's first select this, unwrap, and select this one as well. Looks like been selected. Unwrap. 1 2 3 4. We need 2 pieces more, which are these 2, and we need to close the gap, and we should really find where the gap is. This one, it's here. Okay, let's select this edge and mark it as a seam, so when we select it, it's going to separate that to that selection as well. So let's unwrap this one and only this one remaining. Let's unwrap it. Okay, we have the perfect unwrap in here, and now we are going to place them in here as well. So let's see what we have here, and of course we need to make sure that we use the most out of the UV space, and let's select all of them, just resize a bit and uncheck this rescale UV so that we get bigger UVs, and you see we got a bit more UV compared to that. We want this percentage to be a lot more than this one, so now this is 57, and if we hit it, and now let's rotate them to something like this, and now hit pack, and now we have a lot more resolution compared to what was before. Okay, this is good and I'm happy with it, and now I'm going to hit export. But before doing any major changes, I'm going to save this file. Instead, if something goes wrong, I really have something to go back to. Okay, this one done, and now let's go to Blender and hit export. And I hope we really do not get any problems. Okay, now it's reading the GoZ file. Give it a bit of time. Okay, and I believe it has done it. So let's look at the UVs. Auto group with UV. Okay, we got perfect UVs here, and we can simply go to the next one because this has been UV'd already. So let's turn it back, go a couple of steps up by hitting D and watching everything that we have created. Okay, it's perfectly there and UV'd as well. So, and if you see something in here in terms of messed up geometry, when we are going to decimate this, we're going to take care of these mostly as well, and all of them are going to be lost in bake, and we're not going to export this one into Unreal because, as I said, we want to be a lot faster and of course a bit optimal as well. So we're going to decimate this and use a high poly version. For example, we may export this one to something like 1,000,000 polygons and use a 2,000,000 polygon as a high poly piece to bake on that, so that we preserve a lot of the details. Okay, let's go and see what we have here. Okay, this one done and this one done as well, and we have now a couple of good rock pieces that we can use. Okay, let's see now what we have. We have a smaller pieces. We have a couple of smaller pieces that we need to take care of. Okay, let's go and create. Let's hide all of them. And for this one again, let's bring the Dynamesh resolution all the way. Yeah, this one is a lot better. And now let's bring the move brush and start to manipulate the shape of this one. Okay, let's not really make it fluffy. If we want to grab all of the vertices, hit a space, and on this focal shift, try to bring it all the way to top, so that when you drag, you're getting something like this. Okay, we do not want that. Let's drag. To some extent, I'm really liking the effect, but I need to make it a bit less stronger. It's not a problem really to have some fluffy areas. So every major change that you do, just hit the Dynamesh. Okay, this one as well, and let's drag this one out. Dynamesh. And the good thing is that since the resolution is quite down, we're not getting really high amount of geometry. So let's take this one as well. And now it's time to take the trim smooth border and start to manipulate the shape. Okay, let's take this one. And of course, to get the best quality, we need a lot of resolution on this. Okay, a million piece is enough for this one, I believe. We really do not need 6 million polygons for this. Okay, let's use this. And again, as always, try to save incrementally, not to lose any progress. Okay, let's take this one and start to hit the edges. Okay, try to be so random, and we really do not want to be so specific on this. Okay, I mainly want to make this one a cubic piece, really like a cube, so that we can use it as a transaction piece between the objects. Okay, now on this one as well, just try to hit the edges. And by cube, I do not mean something that is four-sided, just something that resembles the shape. Okay, let's bring the alpha that we were using and start to manipulate the shape. Okay, let's drag it out. Okay, on this part it's looking good, but since this one is a smaller, I'm going to drag the Z intensity down a bit because I really do not want to make it so intense. Okay, on this one it's alright, and now let's drag on this part as well. And we're getting some messy geometry in here, which we can really fix by holding down shift and smooth it out. Okay, let's make this one as well. And since this one is a small piece, we really do not have a lot of problems creating the shape that we want. Okay, and we need to do some shapes in here as well. Okay, on this part also we might need to put some alphas as well. Okay, this is fine. And for this one, I really do not think I'm going to create a lot more noises. Just let's inspect to see if we need to really manipulate some shapes. On this part, it's really 2CG. Let's drag the alpha again, and let's give it a bit of detail in here as well. Okay, this one is done as well. And now let's go. I'm going to hit Shift D to cycle to the lowest subdivision level, which is this one, and we shouldn't really have a hard job trying to UV this. Okay, let's hit go Z visible, and I believe we have Blender turned on. And is it this one? Let me, yeah, this one is that because it doesn't have any UVs, and I mistake it for that one. Okay, this is it. Let's go and start to UV that. And we have these ones as well, but I'm only going to manipulate this. Okay, no, this one was the one that we UV'd. This one is the one with no UVs. Okay, let's try to pick up the edges, and since we really do not have a lot of geometry, we have a good time UVing this. Okay, let's follow the curvature as the best as we can, but really do not be so radical on that. Just something to preserve the shape. Okay, all the way to here. Now let's come down. Okay, mark seam and separate this part as well. Mark seam. And the more planar changes you have, the harder the UV creation is going to be, because you have a lot more sides to take care of. But since this one really doesn't have a lot of sides and it's mostly cubic shape, we really do not have a hard time UVing this. So from here to here as well, and I believe only one more remaining, and that is this one. And try not to leave any gaps in between, so that the UV creation would be a lot easier. So yes, we need to fill this gap, and by gap I mean something like this. Okay, all the way to this one, and now unwrap, 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 and just some more unwraps remaining. Let's look at this part. Yeah, this one needs an unwrap. Okay, it has been unwrapped perfectly. So now we need to rotate this. I believe by rotating we're getting more UV space in there. So now we are halfway through, and now we are getting a lot better. So let's resize them, resize them more, rotate, so let's, yeah, this one did a better job. And this UV creation is really subjective. Sometimes you get a better result hand placing them, sometimes you get better result with these pre-existing data, and sometimes really you need to try and see what really works, and it's subjective really. So this one is all right, and now let's save this one and save the ZBrush scene as well. So go to Blender and hit export, and now it's reading the file, and the UVs are correct as well because we have the auto group with UV turned on. Okay, now if we hit D, we are cycling through, and let's see, hit auto groups with UV, and I hope it doesn't crash. Yeah, now we got the UVs perfectly here, and since we have a lot of polygons in here, the transition would be pretty seamless. So let's make it the default, and I'm going to delete this one as well. Not delete, I mean I'm going to hide it. So let's go to the highest, And let's see what we have. We have a couple of smaller ones. And these ones are also are going to be transition pieces. And now when we're done with them, we have other kit to attend to. We have another kit that starts from all the way from big to small. And we need to take care of this kit as well. And I believe we're going to do that in the next lesson. But for now, let's try to handle these two only. So let's hide these, and I'm going to connect these two pieces together. So hit merge down so that we can work on them together and save a bit of time. So let's hit Dynamesh on lowest resolution. Okay, perfect. We really do not have a lot of geometry in there. And try to manipulate the shape using the move brush. Okay, let's bring that out a bit. And since these two are small, if I'm manipulating this, it's only going to manipulate this one as well. You see that because these are two couple of joint meshes, we are manipulating them together, and that is also what is happening there. And I'm really do not care about this. Okay, let's make the silhouette better, and now let's not hit that, or instead let's go for 32. It doesn't really matter if we get more polygons, but a better polygon distribution. No, let's go for the same. Okay, doesn't matter. We're going to UV this as well. We really do not have any problems. Okay, now let's start to divide this, subdivide, so that we get, okay, this one is enough because each one is getting 1.5 million pieces. So this one is pretty smooth. Let's apply the noises that we have. Okay, this one is getting all right. And you see, because we really do not have any edges in here, the transition is so perfect. Let's see if I can increase the result. Yeah, we're getting good result on this. And make sure that you have the back face masking on as well. And since we really do not have any hard edges, you see the transition is so perfect. And it's something to consider as well. Just try to have soft edges in there. And if you over alpha a place, you're getting these, but I'm going to keep it because it's adding a bit of characteristics to the shape. So let's drag some small alphas so that we do not over alpha the mesh. So it's enough for here, and for here as well. Let's just try to alter the shape a bit. See, this area is so smooth. Okay, and now let's hit Shift D to go back to the first subdivision level to see what we have here to UV. Okay, we have this one, which is really easy to UV. So let's hit D to go to the highest subdivision level. And now let's pick another one. Let's see about this. And it's doing a good job adding details that I want. Let's turn on the back face masking and try to add as much cracks on this as you want. Okay, just some more cracks. to make these fluffy areas better. And you see how using alphas is really a time-saving technique to sculpt these rocks. Make this smaller and smooth this area out. So this one is alright as well. Let me go to the lowest subdivision level and start to go Z these as well. So it goes Z, and now in here, because we were only seeing this on focus mode, we need to go back, and now we have these parts which are connected to each other, and it's a good idea to keep them together for texturing. I mean, I'm going to texture them together on a single texture set because it's really small pieces and we need to save a couple of megabytes using this technique. Okay, now let's follow the curvature from here and to here all the way to top. Remove this. Okay, mark seam, and from here we need to follow all the way to here and to here. Okay, this one as well. Just follow the curvature roughly, and you shouldn't be so exact as well, just guessing. Okay, from here also to here. And in previous generation where nanite wasn't there, we would have to be so perfect about seam placement, and we would really had to select one by one to make the curvature right. But since this is going to be so high quality, the UV placement isn't a concern that much. It's a concern, by the way, but isn't that much. So from here all the way to here, and let's select this one and select this. Okay, I'm selecting all of them on the curvature line. And the good thing is that you really do not want to be so accurate, and the amount of geometry is going to cover that for us. Okay, mark seam on here and on here as well. So I believe there's the last one, and now let's create the UV map for them and start to UV these. Okay, select this, unwrap, select this, select linked, and select between the seam and unwrap. Okay, just a couple of more remaining. Okay, this part. Okay, and now let's select all of them. Select this one, and because the lines are there, you're getting a good unwrap. And this UV creation is a lot better compared to the previous generations. So unwrap again. Okay, let's hit pack. And now we're getting 62. Let's select them or do a rotation. I believe this way we're getting better. And yeah, this one we're getting 71. Okay, it's alright. And to test that, to see if that we have UV that alright, I'm going to create a duplicate from that. And on this duplicate, I'm going to create a UV checker to see if every place has been unwrapped or not. And if you're getting a stretch or something buggy, it means that we have not done that perfectly. So we have done that perfectly, and that is why we get that there. So let's remove this, and I'm going to export this to ZBrush. So let's hit Blender, save, and save the ZBrush file as well. And now hit export. Okay, when you hit export, now it's reading the GoZ file, and done. Let's go Shift F to go to wireframe mode and hit auto group with UV. Okay, this is the UV creation that we did. You can hit Control and Z to go a step back, but I'm going to hit D and go to the highest subdivision level. Okay, I believe we have come to end of this session, which we created these cubic rocks, and I'm happy with how the rocks that we created. Okay, we're going to create a lot of variations using this. Okay, this lesson is done, and in the next lesson we will tackle these rocks as well. And for these ones, we mainly want to create some layered rocks that are available in the coastal areas. Okay, save this one out. I'll see you in the next lesson.